so many young girls are looking up to supermodels,
Sure.
As their inspiration. And even, as we've seen with Make-A-Wish, it is so many little girls' dreams to become, a supermodel, if not only for a day. But then we see things like this article here, Models Cotton Balls Diet. Bria Murphy describes the unhealthy model habit where they're dipping cotton balls in orange juice and eating them to sustain a small size.
There's all kinds of crazy stories, and there's no doubt crazy things like that happening. And obviously models get the spotlight thrown on them because they're out there really talking about beauty and fashion and all the rest of it. But at the same time, there are people like Naomi and people like Chrissy Turlington and Cindy Crawford and who are women now in their 40s who lead extraordinarily healthy lives, who are still on the cover of Harper's Bazaar. Look at Chrissy Turlington right now. Naomi Campbell's still on the covers of English Vogue last month. And I think that's also great to sort of say, look, you can be in your mid-40s, you no longer have to be a young girl, and you can still be in Vogue, on the cover of Harper's, still relevant. And and models who are not always stick skinny as much anymore. The business is changing, and changing slowly, unfortunately, but it is morphing, and there is a big difference. And certainly on America's Next Top Model, when we first started, it was like cracking a nut that no one wanted cracked in the fashion business. They were like, no, this is elitist, and we were poo-pooed by a lot of people. And there we were, sort of, after I'd done it, after 18 seasons, we had Andre Leon-Talley, editor-at-large of American Vogue, as a judge. We had Italian Vogue as a sponsor. All of a sudden, from being totally out of Vogue, we were all in Vogue. So things are changing. It just sometimes takes time, and you just have to fight the fight and ignore the silliness of what people do, ridiculous diets like that, and realize that common sense has to come first. And if it's going to harm you, obviously it's wrong.
Whose responsibility is it for these young models? I mean, you mentioned you had some great examples of women who have just sort of shattered that glass ceiling, like a Christy Turlington, who's, shattered the size, the age, all that kind of stuff.
Enormously philanthropic as well.
Absolutely. Is it up to the big models, the big time models themselves, to sort of usher in this new generation and teaching them that health is more important than necessarily size?
That, as well as, I think it's all the models, the agents themselves have to be more careful. They have to be less of an agent and more of a parent.
The girls are young, right?
Young. So someone like Coco Rocha, for example, is a great example. I know she's enormously philanthropic as well. She's only 24 years old, probably the most prolific model on social media with over 10 million fans. So she has a huge voice to these young girls, and she's enormously sensible. She's currently fighting for girls under the age of 18 who are models in New York to receive the same rights as child actors and actresses. So models are fighting for models' rights to make sure that they're cared for and looked after. And there are these role models out there. Of course, there are also people who are doing ridiculous things. So but that's the world, and we live in a free society where you can hear about everything. So you have to sort of pick your hero and pick your villain.